Chapter 181, Wife appears at Tianji Peak. Instead of hastily leaving Tianji Peak, Fang Hao wandered around while smoking a cigarette. After a short while, Jin Xiaojian called and asked, "Brother Hao, what did my mom say to you?" "Not much, she told me not to interfere in your family matters. It's your family affair, and I'm an outsider." "Xiaojian, your mom is right. I'm just an ordinary doctor, and I should stick to being a pure doctor. What you want, you should strive for yourself." After saying this, Fang Hao hung up the phone. Su Jie's message was clear, he couldn't help Jin Xiaojian against Su Lenin. Otherwise, he would become an enemy of Su Jie. Being just an ordinary doctor, offending Su Jie could lead to retaliation, and he wouldn't have a good time. He needed to be aware of this. At the age of 40 or 50, Su Jie was a mature and stable businesswoman. She would continue to control the group company for a long time. On the other hand, Jin Xiaojian hadn't even graduated from college and had no real power. He couldn't possibly compete with Su Jie. Fang Hao realized he had overestimated Jin Xiaojian. Meeting Su Jie made him understand that Jin Xiaojian was on the ground, while Su Jie's influence reached the stratosphere. He walked through a green belt and saw a car leaving slowly. It was extremely familiar because it was his wife's car. Why was his wife here? Fang Hao immediately thought that his wife might be here to accompany her lover because Zhang Lingtian lived here, and he was the prime suspect of being an unfaithful husband. He took a photo and then called Su Ro, asking, "Are you at home?" "Yes, what's up? Is your car at home?" "Yes, it's at home. I'm going to the construction site with Yunjie this afternoon, so I can't lend it to you." "Understood." Fang Hao hung up the phone and sent the photo he had just taken to Su Ro, with the caption, "Fraud." He put away his phone and found his wife was calling him. He chose not to answer. "Wife, let me explain." On WeChat, Fang Hao directly blocked Su Ro. He didn't bother to read any of her messages. "Su Ro, your time management has some issues. Do you really think you can still deceive me as you did before? Do you think you can live a dual life with your lover? Despicable woman, you're utterly disgraceful." Fang Hao's sorrow was as deep as a dead heart. He felt anger, sadness, revenge, and yet, he remained calm. He left Tianji Peak and took a taxi back to the hospital. In the afternoon, when Liu came over, Fang Hao voluntarily explained his conversation with Su Jie without hiding anything. "So, Su Jie plans to induce at home. That's fine. Fang Hao, it's correct not to get involved in their sibling rivalry. That girl, Su Lenin, is not simple. Maybe it's not her, but her circle of friends. It's better not to provoke them." "Oh, what's the situation?" Fang Hao was a bit puzzled. Su Lenin seemed pure and charming, not someone ruthless. "I've heard some things. I haven't witnessed them personally, but that girl has some means." "Oh, don't underestimate Su Jie either. She can drive away men, make her two daughters share her surname, and control such a large group. She must have some tactics. Like mother, like daughter. Nothing surprising." "That makes sense. I'm just an ordinary doctor. Once I leave the hospital, I'm nothing special. They shouldn't bother with me too much." Fang Hao was straightforward. Changing the topic, he asked, "From the news Su Jie disclosed about the personnel changes, there's still 1 or 2 weeks. I guess I can stay here for another 1 or 2 weeks. Who's coming, and are they easy to work with? I'll find out later tonight." At the age of retirement, Liu couldn't stop this surging tide of personnel changes. Only Lu Jing was a significant figure. Fang Hao adjusted his mood and continued with his clinic. In the afternoon, there were 3 more doctors on duty, which helped distribute the patient load, reducing the workload for Fang Hao. Around 4 o'clock, he instructed to close the registration, concluding his clinic for the day. Returning to his office, Fang Hao noticed his salary slip on the desk, showing a deduction of a significant amount, mainly for smoking. Li Jian? The despicable nurse manager at the outpatient department? Fang Hao called Yang Wenjin and said, "Director, didn't you say the punishment against me was lifted, and I wouldn't be deducted anymore? But my salary slip still shows deductions, and I'm left with only a few hundred yuan. The fact that you're not fired from the inpatient and outpatient departments is already good enough. A little deduction from your salary is just a lesson for you. It's not a big deal." Yang Wenjin hung up the phone. "Damn, I'm broke." Fang Hao cursed. Lu Jing happened to come in, heard the conversation, and chuckled. "Looks like you're not happy as the deputy director of your department. Originally, when you get paid, it's customary for you to treat everyone. But with this little money, it's not even enough for a bottle of wine. Forget it, I'll treat you tonight. Whether it's a lot or a little money, I don't care. It's just that this is unjustly deducted money. Fang Hao received a 1,000,000 yuan check today, and he truly didn't lack 1 or 2,000 yuan. However, if he didn't voice his complaint, the pent-up frustration wouldn't be vented. He said, "You're treating tonight? Then, I won't be polite, but I might have to bring my 2 little ones from home. My wife has a company dinner tonight." Unlike Su Ro, he wasn't willing to leave the children with the neighbors. "Sure. I quite like those 2 little ones." Lu Jing didn't have children and, last time seeing Fang Hao's 2 children, a handsome boy and a beautiful girl, she envied them. She also wished to have a pair of twins like that. Unfortunately, Zhang Jun's seed seemed to be ineffective. She looked at Fang Hao, and a bizarre idea suddenly popped into her mind, to borrow Fang Hao's seed. Old Zhang still had some hope. Let's see later. Suppressing the taboo idea in her heart, after agreeing with Fang Hao, she left. In the corridor, she ran into Lu Yu and invited her to have dinner together in the evening. Lu Yu said, "Fang Hao is inconvenient without a car now. Zhang Jun's car is just parked there and used. Let him drive it. These days, I plan to take him to visit Moonbay." Moonbay? Lu Jing's pupils constricted. It was a top-notch recuperation center where retired cadres, especially female leaders, resided. She knew that her little aunt wanted to groom Fang Hao into an imperial physician and might also make some arrangements for the upcoming gynecology department changes. She agreed and then took out her phone, asking her younger brother, Lu Zheng, to return the Mercedes. Back in the office, Lu Yu told Fang Hao, "I heard about the salary slip incident, and I also asked Yang Wenjin. The decision to deduct your salary this time was proposed by Vice President Zhou Long." Zhou Long? I haven't had any conflicts with him. Why is he strictly following the regulations this time? Fang Hao frowned. Lu Yu explained, Zhou Long is competing for the position of hospital president. Meanwhile, Lu Jing, Gong Yidao, and other people in the Chinese medicine hospital, including the old Yi from the gynecology department, are also in the competition. From this perspective, they are competitors. You are the person brought out by Lu Jing and Su Yucheng. You should understand the underlying dynamics, right? I understand. It's just 1 or 2,000 yuan. It's not a lot of money, it's just enough to make people uncomfortable. Fang Hao remembered Zhou Long. Chapter 182, Mother-in-law's Mission. Lu Jing stood on the steps outside the outpatient building, watching her younger brother drive towards her. She moved the ice cream bucket aside, allowing her brother to park in the space. Lu Jing didn't get out of the car and said, "Sis, are you off work? Get in, I'll give you a ride. Hand over the car keys, and take your personal belongings. I'll be using this car from now on." Lu Jing's expression was cold, especially when she noticed the dust on the car and some scratches on the front bumper. It made her uncomfortable. "Sis, I need this car." Lu Jing still wanted to argue. After all, a Mercedes worth 100 or so thousand was a great tool for picking up girls. "Don't you have a sports car of your own?" "It's in the repair shop." "Well, with the scratches on this car, if your brother-in-law sees it, he'll surely give you a good beating. Get out. Then, go and bring back my car." Lu Jing didn't tolerate any questioning. Reluctantly, Lu Jing had to take his sister's ordinary car back. Half an hour later, Fang Hao and Lu Yu arrived, ready to leave together. Fang Hao went straight to the kindergarten to pick up his children. Seeing Jia Jia and Tian Tian, Lu Jing was delighted. She allowed them to kiss her cheeks repeatedly, then hugged them tightly. She said, "Fang Hao, I'd like to consider your children as my godson and goddaughter. Borrowing your blessings, I hope Zhang and I can also have a pair like them." Lu Yu suggested, "That's a good idea. I have no objections. Just, Director Lu, you can rest assured. I believe Zhang can do it." Fang Hao agreed naturally, but he was in the process of getting a divorce, and Su Ro also had a lover. He wondered if Su Ro would agree to have the children recognize a godmother. That brat Su Ro, I'll talk to her. Knowing Fang Hao didn't want to discuss Su Ro, Lu Jing changed the topic, engaging the children with light-hearted questions about where they wanted to eat. After dinner, Fang Hao first dropped off Lu Yu and Lu Jing, then received a call from his mother-in-law, Zhou Fen. He decided to take the kids to visit her as well. Zhou Fen was now at home recuperating, no longer needing to attend classes. She spent her time reading books at home. Grandma. The two children rushed to Zhou Fen, calling her incessantly, kissed her cheeks, then went to the toy room to play. Not seeing her daughter, Zhou Fen frowned and asked, "Where's Xiao?" "Accompanying a client." Fang Hao replied calmly, but in reality, he was more inclined to believe his wife was with her lover. How are you two now?" Zhou Fen didn't want to bring up this topic, but she had to. Fang Hao said, "I've drafted the agreement, but she refuses to sign. The past 2 nights, while I was on duty at the hospital, she left the kids with the neighbors and went to be with that person. She seems to really like him. I don't understand why she won't sign." Zhou Fen's brows furrowed deeper. She asked, "Who is that person? Does he really exist?" "He does. I'm busy at the hospital and can't tell her. She won't say who he is, so I'm not sure." Fang Hao sneered inwardly. If it's really that old guy, Zhang Lingtian, would Su Ro admit it? Isn't she afraid of losing face? Moreover, Zhang Lingtian and the Su family have a good relationship. He can be considered an uncle. If he plays around with the younger generation, won't he be considered shameless? However, Fang Hao felt it wasn't impossible. Zhang Lingtian was talented in various fields, so playing around with women wouldn't be beneath him. Zhou Fen was displeased. "You two were doing well. Why did you have to make such a scene?" Fang Hao said, "Mom, don't be upset. It's my fault. I'm not outstanding enough, not meeting your expectations, and certainly not meeting Xiao's requirements." He noticed several math books and a research proposal on the coffee table. Changing the topic, he asked, "Are you still trying to secure a project?" Zhou Fen said, "I'm not dead yet. Without doing something, I'll really get old." "Oh, you also have talent in mathematics. Take these books back, read them, and then discuss with me how to handle my project." "Mom, don't talk back. Are you planning to divorce and no longer acknowledge me? Does my word mean nothing to you now that you're getting a divorce?" "It's not that. Your words have always carried weight. It's like royal decrees. It's just that I'm currently in charge of a medical department, and we're about to change leadership. I'll be very busy." "Fang Hao, I didn't expect you to end up in the gynecology department. How disappointing." Sigh. "Being in the gynecology department means I get the treatment of a deputy director. If I'm not dismissed this month, I'll be receiving the salary of a deputy director next month. I have issues with money, Mom. You don't have to worry about food, clothing, or housing. You can choose a decent job. However, I can't rely on love alone. Just too talkative. Give me another pulse check. I feel a bit tired. Do some acupuncture or massage for me." Zhou Fen said this, and Fang Hao came over. She extended her hand, and Fang Hao examined her pulse. He could see that Zhou Fen's body was recovering well, better than others of the same age who had undergone surgery. This was largely due to her postoperative care. Money isn't everything, but without it, you can't do anything. This saying makes sense. He performed acupuncture on Zhou Fen. While she closed her eyes to rest, Fang Hao casually flipped through some books. After more than 20 minutes, Fang Hao removed the acupuncture needles. Zhou Fen got up, stretched her muscles and bones, and said, "You, country bumpkin, are really skilled. Every time you finish acupuncture for me, I feel relaxed, as if there's a new vitality inside me." Fang Hao said, "Mom, I'm thinking about taking on some private consultations. If you know any elderly people around you who need acupuncture or other treatments, contact me. Considering your relationship with me, I can offer a discount." Get lost. Am I here to help you attract customers? What do you take me for? Go. Zhou Fen scolded lightly, but in her heart, she was filtering through suitable candidates for Fang Hao to treat. "All right, goodbye, old madam." Fang Hao clapped his knees and called Tian Tian and Jia Jia, who were playing inside, to leave. As soon as his car left, Su Buiyuan returned. Seeing his wife's somewhat dim expression, he asked, "What happened?" Seeing Su Buiyuan's flushed face and detecting a faint scent, Zhou Fen, using even her toe, could guess that Su Buiyuan had found a woman. She said, "Can't you be more restrained? Do you really think your body is still 18 years old?" Su Buiyuan said, "My body is still fine." "Who came? Why is it so chaotic?" "Fang Hao and those 2 little ones came, just left." "Oh, speaking of Fang Hao, let me tell you something. He and Xiao are getting a divorce. The agreement is already done." Su Buiyuan was surprised. "How come I didn't know?" "It's not too late to know now. What's your opinion?" "Who proposed first?" "Fang Hao." "Sort of, but Xiao is at fault. She found someone better outside, leaving Fang Hao behind. This? Xiao, since it's Xiao's decision, we'll support her. What's in the agreement? Fang Hao leaves with nothing. Tian goes to Fang Hao, and Jia goes to Xiao. That's okay. If Fang Hao doesn't make trouble, we can compensate him a bit. The old car in the yard, let's transfer it to him. Su Buiyuan's expression remained calm as he said, oh, Xiao wants a divorce even though she's pregnant. It seems the child in her belly isn't Fang Hao's. Later, have Xiao bring that man over, and I'll take a look. Why bother showing your face? Zhoufeng was dissatisfied. Chapter 183, Spare me, I beg you. It was 10 p.m. when Su Ro returned home. She went to the study and saw Fang Hao reading a book. As she moved to kiss him, Fang Hao stopped her. Husband, what's wrong? I haven't been drinking, and my breath is fine. Don't use the mouth that kissed your lover to disgust me. Let's sign the agreement. I'll take Tian with me, leave Jia with you, and then you can live however you want with your lover. I'm begging you, spare me, okay? Husband, at noon. Don't explain. I don't want to hear it, and I don't believe any explanation. Fang Hao firmly refused. Seeing Su Ro about to cry, he found it almost laughable. Did this woman really think her crocodile tears still had an effect? He continued, sign the papers, and I won't go through legal procedures. Otherwise, if it goes to court, your ugly deeds will be exposed, and then you'll truly lose face. Husband, don't be like this. Unable to hold back her tears, Su Ro's eyes welled up like a stream. I'll sleep in the study tonight, you go to the bedroom. Don't worry, this is your house. After the divorce, I can move out anytime. It won't affect your little world with your lover. Fang Hao pushed Su Ro out of the room. He restrained himself, not letting the tears flow, suppressing the anger in his heart. He wanted to retaliate against his wife, against that adulterer, but he had more important matters, to stand out, support his parents, and take care of his son Tian. He couldn't act recklessly, similar to Wei Wen, who ended up being sentenced, while that flower continued to bloom with the old adulterer. What was the meaning of such revenge? Su Ro went to freshen up. Under the tap, she couldn't help but cry again. After the tears dried, she tidied up and came to find Fang Hao. In the living room, both sat upright. In the past, they were affectionate, but now they seemed like strangers. Husband, how did we end up like this? You shouldn't be asking me that. You had an affair. Su Ro, I can't tolerate a woman putting a green hat on me. You cannot love me, you can look down on me, but giving me a green hat, humiliating me like this, I won't tolerate. Husband, I didn't betray you. Do you believe me? No. Why not? I have solid evidence, mountains of evidence. I'm not presenting it now to give you a little face. Let's part amicably. When we meet again, I'll still be Tian's mother. Husband, you don't believe me. Is the child in my belly not yours? Do you still not believe it? Fang Hao fell silent and said, it's possible, but it doesn't change anything. Because you had an affair. You had a sexual relationship with your lover. Even if the child is mine, it's just a coincidence that you got pregnant. This basic knowledge of physiology, you shouldn't be ignorant of. So, what's the use of saying all this? The child is yours, you are the father. I won't let the child be born without a dad. So, I won't divorce you, and I won't sign. You can sue me, but the court probably won't allow the divorce of a pregnant woman like me. Su Ro, why do you have to do this? I can't understand you now. Husband, do you still love me? No. You're lying. You clearly still love me. That's enough, Su Ro, enough. Don't say anything more. It's late, go to bed early. If you don't sign tonight, I'll contact a lawyer tomorrow. That's it. Fang Hao didn't want to talk to Su Ro because she would only cry, say she still loved him, refuse to divorce, and not admit who her lover was, refusing to face the humiliation she brought upon Fang Hao. Fang Hao felt very tired from work, and even more tired mentally. He entered the study and soon fell asleep. The next day, he got up early, freshened up, and then prepared breakfast. Shortly after, Su Ro also got up and offered to help in the kitchen. Fang Hao didn't stop her or engage in conversation. During breakfast, Su Ro said, last night, Yue Xia sent me a message, asking me to go on a business trip with her today, lasting 3 days. She showed Fang Hao the message on her phone, not hiding anything. Fang Hao frowned, saying, I'm busy at the hospital too. If you go on a business trip, who will take care of Jia? So, you need to sign the papers as soon as possible. Husband, I've told you many times, I won't sign. Su-ro skipped breakfast, kissed the children, and left with her small bag. She knew that leaving the child with Fang Hao, he would take good care of them. Fang Hao remained silent, watching the two children staring at him. He scolded gently, "What are you looking at? Hurry up and eat, don't dawdle, or else Dad will be late." When they left, they happened to meet the couple from across the hall, Dong Yunzhou and Rui Li, who were also taking their child to kindergarten. "Dad, we can go with little Tiger," Tian said very sensibly. Fang Hao looked at Dong Yunzhou and Rui Li, and the latter agreed. In the elevator, Dong Yunzhou asked, "I heard you've been promoted to director?" "It's temporary, as an associate director. We'll have a new director parachuting in soon, and I might be transferred. Being a director, my qualifications are still too shallow, I don't have that qualification yet." Fang Hao laughed. He knew he needed to keep a low profile. In reality, he was indeed a temporary associate director, nothing worth boasting about. "You're just in your 20s and already an associate director, that's quite impressive." Dong Yunzhou felt a bit envious of Fang Hao's good looks, like a big star, and he was intelligent, with a smooth career. Especially seeing Fang Hao driving a Mercedes worth $1 million, he felt that his 300,000 Mercedes wasn't that appealing anymore. He asked his wife Rui Li to take the child to school, and he took a ride in Fang Hao's car to the hospital, claiming it was for a routine checkup. Seeing Fang Hao tidying up the books on the seat, all of which were cutting-edge mathematical works, Dong Yunzhou was surprised and asked, "Director Fang, are you still reading these math books? These belong to my mother-in-law. She forced me to read them, like dragging a duck onto a perch. I don't understand them, and I don't have time. When I pick up these books, all I want to do is sleep." Fang Hao shook his head, making up a random excuse. Dong Yunzhou said, "Well, your mother-in-law is a math professor, that's impressive." On the way, Fang Hao noticed Dong Yunzhou hesitating to speak. He said, "Old Dong, do you have something to tell me? Just say it, we're familiar with each other." Dong Yunzhou said, I want to ask, at my age, will things in that department start to decline?" A male health question from a middle-aged man? Fang Hao said, "In theory, yes, because as people age, various functions start to decline, not just in that department. Middle-aged men can't do without a thermos filled with wolfberries. Old Dong, judging by your complexion, you shouldn't be at the age to worry about this yet. Give me your hand for a pulse check, okay?" Dong Yunzhou reached out, and Fang Hao slowed down the car, checking his pulse. He quickly withdrew his hand, saying, "Old Dong, you're a bit unethical. You're flaunting your frequency to me. You haven't declined, you've been a bit excessive. Are you and sisterly planning for a second child?" This. Dong Yunzhou was surprised, asking, "How did you know I've been excessive?" "Haha, don't deny it. It's just the two of us here. Treat me as a doctor, you don't need to hide anything from me. With your situation, you need Huiren Shenbao. Of course, you can choose not to supplement it, and wait until you're ready for a second child. It's never too late then." Fang Hao laughed. Dong Yunzhou blushed, feeling hot and embarrassed. He regretted letting Fang Hao check his pulse. He hadn't expected Fang Hao to be so skilled, figuring out his excessive activities through a pulse check. This neighbor was a bit frightening. Chapter 184, Personnel Transfer. After parking his car and moving the books to the dormitory, Fang Hao saw Dong Yunzhou leaving from another school gate. He was a bit puzzled. Wasn't old Dong here for a checkup? Why did he leave so quickly? Without dwelling on it, Fang Hao went to the gynecology department to clock in and entered work mode, starting his rounds. Lu Yu checked Fang Hao's attendance and the number of patients he treated. She knew Fang Hao had a natural talent for medicine, but she didn't expect him to be this efficient, surpassing others in the number of patients he attended to. She deliberately brought the head nurse who partnered with Fang Hao and inquired about Fang Hao's patient visits. Finding no issues, Lu Yu felt reassured. In the morning, Li Xiaoxi arrived. She had a final work handover with Lu Yu. Her new position was confirmed, and even the contract was signed. She would start working once her new office desk was set up. Lu Yu performed some superficial work, not making things difficult for Li Xiaoxi. She didn't even try to persuade her to stay if she wanted to take someone with her. Li Xiaoxi specifically found Fang Hao, asking him to pause the patient calls temporarily. She also had the head nurse leave the room, wanting to talk to Fang Hao alone. Fang Hao said, "Director Li, No, Dean Li, congratulations on your promotion. Li Xiaoxi remarked, Fang Hao, you're quite an annoying person, similar to Su Yucheng in temperament, both arrogant and stubborn. Fang Hao quickly said, Dean Li, if I've offended you in medical matters, let's treat it as a passing breeze. Let's put any grudges behind us. Li Xiaoxi said, but I also have to thank you. Without your push at the end, I wouldn't have dared to aim for the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Later, let's have a meal and improve our relationship. You're not allowed to refuse. Also, I have confidence in your medical skills. The next time I encounter difficult cases, I'll find you, and you shouldn't decline. You're too kind, Dean Li. However, I'm just an ordinary doctor, and there are plenty of professors and experts in obstetrics and gynecology, much more skilled than me. I wouldn't dare to show off. Fang Hao was a bit suspicious, not understanding why Li Xiaoxi suddenly extended an olive branch. He wondered what hidden meanings were behind this gesture. Li Xiaoxi said, regardless of your response, we've gotten to know each other. In the future, if I need your expertise, don't refuse. Let me give you a hint. The new director coming to Provincial People's Hospital's Obstetrics and Gynecology Department is likely my junior sister. Oh, I wasn't aware of that, and besides, my current position is temporary. Who knows what the future holds? Fang Hao didn't inquire further or ask about Li Xiaoxi's junior sister. Li Xiaoxi didn't say much more, gave Fang Hao her private number, and then left. Without dwelling on it, Fang Hao had the head nurse bring in the next patient. At the end of the day, Fang Hao briefed Lu Yu about his conversation with Li Xiaoxi, seeking her opinion. Lu Yu said, so, the Chinese medicine and traditional Chinese medicine university system is coming in. It seems Zhoulong has a great chance this time. Our medical department at Jiangdong University will temporarily step back. Fang Hao finally realized. He asked, does Director Lu still have a chance to become the vice dean? Lu Yu replied, yes, because at any time, one can't monopolize everything. This time, with the Chinese medicine and traditional Chinese medicine system taking the position of the dean, the natural choice for the vice dean will be from the Jiangdong University system. Of course, her competition is only with Zhoulong. Zhoulong? He was recommended directly by Yang Wenjin. Even if he can't be the dean, he might continue as the vice dean, or even the first vice dean, it's very likely. Of course, Zhoulong's momentum is quite strong right now, especially with his project on myasthenia gravis. Once he achieves success, he'll gain a lot of recognition. Recently, Director Lu has been busy taking care of Zhang Jun. She's fallen behind in terms of work. Myasthenia gravis? Can Zhoulong really make it? Lu Yu counter-questioned, Zhoulong took over your cases. Do you think he's capable? No. Why not? It's unspeakable. Hee, you've become evasive too. Fang Hao didn't say much more and went to the cafeteria for dinner. During this time, he received a call from Zhou Fen, asking if he had read the books. He replied that he had, but hadn't finished and couldn't understand them. Zhou Fen took the opportunity to suggest coming over in the evening to stay with him, help him with mathematics, and take care of the children. She asked him to pick her up at the villa after finishing work in the afternoon. Fang Hao wanted to refuse, but since he hadn't completely divorced yet, he couldn't entirely break free from the relationship with his daughter-in-law. He also knew that this might be a tactic from Su Ro to keep an eye on him. Thinking that his wife was on a business trip and might be with her lover at this moment, he considered such a woman, who professed love in front of him but would be with someone else once away from him. He felt like a man being played with. Fang Hao didn't want to invite trouble, so he returned to the dormitory and sent the divorce agreement to the court. In his hesitation, he didn't include the paternity test, just stating that the relationship had broken down, and his wife had found someone new. The paternity test had caused him too much pain, and he couldn't make up his mind about including it. On their wedding night, he was insulted by his wife and her lover. This information was explosive, and he would be looked down upon. His wife would also face public disgrace. He felt he was too soft-hearted, considering not causing harm to his wife even at this moment. He was too soft, too spineless. Because he had to take care of the children at night, Fang Hao couldn't work the night shift. In the afternoon, after finishing work, he went to pick up Zhou Fen. During the car ride, Zhou Fen asked, "Villager, I inquired a bit, and it seems you won't be staying in the obstetrics and gynecology department for long. Let me introduce you to a new hospital, what do you think?" Fang Hao was surprised and asked, Why won't I stay in obstetrics and gynecology? Do you have inside information? Zhou said, someone from the Su family works at the health bureau. A phone call will clear things up. Li Xiaoxi from your department is being transferred to the obstetrics and gynecology department of the maternal and child health hospital as the vice dean, in charge of the pediatric department. Taking over for Li Xiaoxi is Luo Xuejuan, a female PhD from the Chinese Medicine Hospital, specializing in obstetrics and gynecology. With her PhD status and outstanding medical skills, do you think she'll tolerate you? So, you might be transferred. Then, where would I be transferred to? Fang Hao suddenly realized that the Su family also had connections in the health system. Zhou said, it depends on your preference. If it weren't for your medical skills, I'd suggest you join forces with Su Ro and start a business. You could make good money, and you could establish yourself in Jiangdong City. But, since you're a villager, don't underestimate me like that. Can't I make money as a doctor? Do you think I can't stand on my own here without Su Ro? Although I was able to stay at Provincial People's Hospital because of your connections, I've also become a pawn in the struggle between you and Yang Wenjin. Yang Wenjin couldn't deal with you, so she used me. For 4 years, she didn't give me prescription rights and had me stuck in the inpatient department doing odd jobs. Fang Hao complained a bit. Well, do you blame me for that? Who asked you to be a villager? Villager? This time, you and the Zhou family, along with the Su family, don't bother about me. Let me fend for myself at Provincial People's Hospital. I'm afraid of you all. Fang Hao dared to speak out now. Chapter 185, Invisible Crisis. After dinner, Fang Hao let the children play in the room while he was dragged by Zhou to delve into mathematics. Zhou was very assertive, claiming that mathematics was 200 years ahead of all other disciplines. Fang Hao, not studying mathematics, would fall behind. Fang Hao was speechless. After a while, he pretended to be tired and went to take care of the children's hygiene. During this time, Su Ro called, and Fang Hao spoke a few words before hanging up. In the end, with Su Ro and Zhou on WeChat, he managed to have a video call with the children. Fang Hao consistently rejected Su Ro's request to add him on WeChat. He didn't want any involvement with that woman. The next day, during breakfast, Zhou said to Fang Hao, your father wants to transfer that car to you. This way, you won't need to drive other people's cars. Is it the Hongqi or the Pusan? Pusan. Forget it then. That car is over 10 years old. Even though it's dad's, its market value is only around 20,000. If I want to drive such a car, I can afford one for 20,000. Since I'm getting a divorce from Su Ro, I choose to start fresh. It's better not to have any connection with you guys. Fang Hao said directly that he wasn't interested in that old car. In today's context, he would have to be forced to drive an old car? Who would that insult? Zhou had known the situation for a long time. She said, then transfer the Hongqi to you? Forget it. That car is too precious, and I don't deserve it. Mom, stop bothering me like this. After my divorce with Su Ro, treat me as if I don't exist. You should cherish your future son-in-law, the one who will get the Pusan. As Fang Hao spoke, he couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Let that old man drive the Pusan? That would be too comical. Do you really take good intentions as donkey liver and lungs? Ignore you. Are you coming back for lunch? I won't be back. Fang Hao wanted to take a break in the hospital dormitory at noon and avoid the trouble of coming back and forth. If Zhou was at home, and she wanted to teach him mathematics, it would be a terrifying scene. Zhou added, oh, I almost forgot to tell you. Your father wanted to transfer you to the city bureau at the time, but there weren't enough positions, and you didn't have the qualifications, so it fell through. However, your performance during the last epidemic caught the attention of the city bureau. So, it might be brought up again this time. What's your plan? I won't go. Besides knowing a bit of medical skills, I don't know anything else. Fang Hao didn't want to become a civil servant because he had no foundation. Joining the civil servant system, he would never break through to the provincial hall cadre even if he lived to be 100. Provincial hall cadres were born into it. For hundreds of generations, Fang Hao's family had been peasants. He didn't have the fate to become a provincial hall cadre. Moreover, a more practical point was that civil servants didn't encourage divorce. Once determined to divorce, it required approval from higher-ups. Fang Hao didn't want to involve himself further by entering the civil servant system. Now, with his increasing progress in medical skills, there was no need for him to give up what he was best at. You're really a villager for a lifetime. Take these 2 little villagers with you and go. Zhou was angry. If Fang Hao entered the civil servant system, there would be better opportunities to stand out compared to being a doctor. Every day, Tian didn't understand why her grandmother and father, who were talking nicely, suddenly became angry. Don't look at your grandmother. She's a fierce tiger. Eat quickly, or she'll eat you. Fang Hao teased. Zhou gave Fang Hao a slight glare, not bothering to argue. Tiger mother, your whole family is a bunch of tiger mothers. After dropping the children off at the kindergarten, Fang Hao headed to the hospital. He waited for Lu Yu to arrive, making tea as he asked, I heard that Luo Xuezhuan is coming to our gynecology department, a PhD from the Chinese Medicine University. What are your thoughts on this? Who told you that? Zhou. She said she asked her relatives at the city bureau, so it shouldn't be a lie. Then it should be her. Although she has a PhD, her actual skills are not as good as yours. Maybe, but she's a PhD. She will certainly be responsible for all aspects of the gynecology department when she arrives. By then, I won't have a place. Can I take advantage of this changing period and try to transfer to another department? Like the surgical department. Surgical department? Oh, I almost forgot. You have exceptional talent in surgical procedures. Let me talk to Lu Jing. If you can't stay in gynecology, we'll try to move you to the surgical department. That would be great. However, the surgical department is a revenue-generating department. It might not be so easy for me to get in. If it doesn't work out, the outpatient emergency department is also a good option. Fang Hao finished speaking and whispered, Director, if only you were 30 years younger. What? What do you want to do? I'm not interested in second marriage men. You've misunderstood. What I mean is, if you were 30 years younger, you wouldn't have to retire, and I could just rely on your support. You talk too much. Go and see patients. Lu Yu was pleased with Fang Hao's words because he was handsome and had excellent medical skills, making her secretly envy him. However, the age gap between them was significant. Fang Hao could be her younger son or even grandson. In the morning, Fang Hao saw around 80 patients, all with common gynecological issues and no complex cases. Everything went smoothly. He came to the office and saw Lu Yu organizing bed data, arranging for several patients to be discharged. He asked, Why are you clearing out beds? What's the purpose? Lu Yu didn't conceal anything and said, In the afternoon and tomorrow, some patients from the Chinese Medicine Hospital will be transferred here. This is for Luo Xuezhuan's patients. She is conducting a clinical trial on a new drug. Fang Hao understood because many universities had collaborative research projects with medical universities. Professors and PhD holders conducted temporary experiments in hospitals. Fang Hao had encountered such experiments during his time at Xiehe Hospital. Now, as an in-service PhD candidate, he didn't have the qualifications to apply for national projects. Once he graduated and became a full-time PhD, he could easily obtain projects, allowing him to hang his name in a hospital and conduct clinical trials. Luo Xuezhuan hadn't arrived yet, but the trial subjects were already here, enjoying the benefits of being under the director. This made Fang Hao envious. Fang Hao also sensed an invisible crisis. When Luo Xuezhuan arrived, his authority would undoubtedly be stripped away. At that time, he would be just an ordinary deputy director, doing regular work like clinic duties. The resources of the gynecology department would be monopolized by Luo Xuezhuan, and if he wanted resources, he would have to flatter her. Luo Xuezhuan was a young female PhD. If she didn't rise up, she would continue as the department head, and Fang Hao, as the deputy director, would have no chance of promotion unless he transferred out of gynecology. This was the most terrifying aspect of it all.